Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and welcome to my review of the Mashin Sentai Kiramager premieres. This year with Kiramager is an interesting case in Sentai premieres because a few months ago, it got an episode 0 that came out in theaters alongside the crossover movie and provided much of the backstory for the season before this last weekend's episode 1. Recently, that prequel of sorts got an official online release before the actual premiere and the movie it was released with. So because the two episodes flow into each other so beautifully, today I'm going to be reviewing the two of them together as a movie of sorts. Kiramager episode 01, if you will. Wait. Anyways, before I begin, please be sure to let me know your own thoughts on the two-part Kiramager opening and check out my review on this season's predecessor, Kishiryu Sentai Ryu Soldier. Also be sure to follow me on Twitter and join the channel Discord server in case you want to hear more of my own thoughts. And now, let's Kirame go! So right off the bat, I'm going to get into my favorite part of the premiere, which was the split formula of it per se. The way we split this up into episode 0 and episode 1, I think is like an amazing use of the backstory of the characters. I really appreciate how episode 0 flows perfectly into episode 1 to the point where it feels like a short movie, but episode 1 still functions independently as a premiere. There is some backstory explained in there, and it expertly works with the stuff that was set up in episode 0. Obviously, if you're going to watch 0, you're going to watch 1, but if you see 1 for the first time, you may not have seen 0 because of how it was released. So I just really appreciate the way they don't step over each other's toes. They basically stand perfectly right next to each other. Now in the story department, I think it also works perfectly. Episode 0 allows for most of the Kiramager team to get established alongside Pico Taro, and because it mainly focuses with Mabushima, it also gives her a small arc of sorts. So it does feel like it has this continuing story that ends in episode 0. And they don't really get most of that focus in episode 1, so I guess now I'm going to talk about how I feel about the characters in episode 0. And I really like all of them. They're kind of one note, just currently because it's episode 0, they're not really going to get that much development, but they're all very likable. But I have to say my favorite is actually Pico Taro, and it's not because he's a meme. I'm never going to call him his actual name in the show. I'm only going to call him Pico Taro, but he actually has a interesting personality in episode 0. First of all, I kind of like the mystery of how he's been in contact with Crystalia, but I like that he's that kind of mentor that teaches the team and gives them lessons, but not like very on the nose, like, okay team, today's lesson is basically in episode 0 where he pretends like he dies to let the team and Mabushima stand on their own and defeat the fake invading villains. I don't remember their name at all, I'm sorry. And then he's like, oh, I'm alive, but it was all part of my plan because now you guys actually know what to do and you didn't get yourself killed because they were all fake monsters. I just really like that. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this team grows throughout the season because they had a great start in episode 0. Now, of course, this allows episode 1 to pretty much focus completely on our Red Ranger, Juru. And I see this as a good and a bad thing, not largely because of Juru himself as an annoying Red Ranger. Basically, I feel episode 0 shoehorns Juru in for no reason other than because he's the Red Ranger, but he's like the complete main focus of episode 1. The other Kiramagers and Pico Taro get like no screen time in episode 1. They just get that establishment in case you haven't seen episode 0 because they were fully established in episode 0. So I feel like having Juru actually be in episode 0 pulls attention away from the other Rangers when that was more of their own origin story, and then he gets his own later. It would have also kind of helped with the little mystery, I guess, they were setting up with who the Red Ranger is, but that, I mean, it's in all the trailers, so I guess that's not really a mystery. Another problem I have with Juru is his catchphrase. Now, I get it, don't get angry at me, I get it, it's a kid show, and the phrase itself is not really my problem, or him being an energetic Red Ranger. I just don't really like how every time he says Kirame King, there's like a good 10 seconds devoted to him saying it. Like, we zoom in on his face, he does an expression, then he yells out Kirame King, and then that's it. And once again, it's honestly a small nitpick. Because when he says Kirame King, it leads to him drawing out some new gear or formation for the Kiramagers, and I think that idea is awesome. I love it. I think it really makes it feel like the team actually needs him after we saw how capable they were earlier on. And it also creates this interesting dynamic where he's basically creating all of the Zords. I feel like this trend is going to carry on throughout the season, and just that idea I'm very excited for. It's just, I hope they don't really continue this weird trend of how he's actually saying the catchphrase. You just need to have him quickly say it and then he starts drawing. That's fine. I don't think we need to weirdly coordinate the shots to establish, hey guys, he's going to say his catchphrase. But another small nitpick on my part, I feel like there's a bit of a strange disconnect between the Kirame Changers and the gear being made by Carrot using the Kirame Stone's energy, but then the Zords are just the Kirame Stones being reformatted by imagination, and that they can combine in a different way based on imagination. It kind of feels like we're weirdly combining like imagination and then machines in this weird way. Hopefully maybe it gets more fleshed out as the season goes on. But I feel like in this first episode, it kind of clashes, especially just with episode 0 kind of feeling more technological because of the equipment being made by Carrot. Speaking of Carrot and the equipment, the obvious highlight of both of these episodes are the action and the aesthetics. Now, honestly, I'm still not really in love with the suits themselves or their weapons, but I will say they've certainly grown on me and they really look awesome in fight scenes. For me, the standouts are the episode 0 fight and Juru's debut. The episode 0 fight really gives a lot of focus to the individual Rangers and gives them their own couple seconds for a fight scene, and I think that's really cool. And then in episode 1, we have Juru kind of switching from Ranger to Ranger, and they each get another dedicated part of an action scene, and that's really cool. The choreography in the shooting of footage is also really interesting. It reminds me of Lupat. I hope that will continue on throughout the season because it made the season feel really unique once again with its fight scenes. Juru's debut as Kirame Red was another awesome part of episode 1 as well. The shot of him running up Machine Fire and then just shooting the monster with the combined weapon that he just created was so cool. It's such an awesome shot. It's like insane Toku, and I love that. More insane Toku is the Zords getting launched at the monster in their stone form. That's just crazy, but it fits with the season, and I really liked it. I kind of want to say it's too silly, but I don't know. I feel like it kind of skirts that line perfectly, in my opinion. Speaking of the Zords, first of all, I kind of like that they all have this one-note personality that kind of plays into episode 0. Forgot to mention that. I thought that was a lot of fun. But I like how in the fight scenes, they're constantly communicating with their Kiramager partner. It adds this level of humor to all the fight scenes, but it also adds some extra interactions. We get a lot of characters, a lot of stuff going on. I hope it doesn't get too cluttered, but I didn't feel it was too cluttered in these opening fight scenes. Another thing about the aesthetics I really like is not, once again, as I said, the actual suits are not really my favorite. I do really like the Megazords and the Zords, though. But, like, the not suits part of the aesthetics, like the transformation, the Zords, the roll call. If, like, let's just give an example. Let's say we switched all of that out with, like, Ryu Soldier, which is an aesthetic I really love. That would be so cool. Just, like, basically everything about the aesthetics that's not the suits, I absolutely love. It looks so cool. The weird glowing effect with the roll call, just kind of how dynamic the roll call felt, the shininess of the cockpits, the Kirame change itself with all the crystals, the way the helmet comes on. Another thing I really like is that the season appeals to me in my nitpickiness, where in episode 0, the jewel on their chest comes from just a floating ball, because the Kirame stones have not been established in their vehicle modes yet, because, I mean, they didn't even know they could do that. But then in episode 1, after Machine Fire reformats itself into Machine Fire, the fire truck, when Juru changes, he has the fire truck going across his road sash thing, and I really like that. I would have probably complained about it if they did that in episode 0 when they weren't vehicles yet. So good on you, Kiramager, for those little details. That makes me really love the season. Just a few more things I want to talk about here. The villains, not really much to them. We just get, what's his name? the big creepy guy with the mouth. The mouth is really creepy, but that's all he is in these 2 episodes. Totally fine. Galza, the moon guy, I was not expecting him to be Mabushima's uncle. He shows up in the beginning of episode 0, and I'm like, alright, cool. There's some intrigue going on with the villains and the uncle. And then in the end of episode 0, he's wearing the armor that we saw in the trailers, but he doesn't have the helmet on, and I was just like, no, you're not going to make him the villain. He's not going to just completely change his appearance, and he does, and that's so badass. I love that. I've never seen that in Toku because I haven't seen a lot, and I love that. That's so cool. I really can't wait to see how that plays out later on, if it does at all. But just the setup alone, honestly, that is so cool. I just love how he betrays his entire planet, and then he just completely switches his entire aesthetic to fit with the villains he's now working with. Now we're at the end of the review, and I'm just going to talk about the end of the episode, where we get the ending dance. I don't usually watch or talk about the ending themes at all, but I just want to comment how I like how in Kiramagers, each Mashin gets its own unique dance and some lyrics going on. I think that's a lot of fun. I hope they continue that when the 6th Ranger debuts, because if it doesn't, damn, they really lost me there. So those were my thoughts on episode 0 and episode 1 of Mashin Sentai Kiramager. I thought that this was overall a very solid premiere, to the point where most of my negatives are just nitpicks, really. I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with either of these 2 episodes. I'm very excited to see where the show goes in the following year. Once again, be sure to check out my recent review of Ryu Soldier and check out some of the recent 10K subscriber videos. If you want to stay tuned for those and more, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.